possible serial killer in the family. Today, I learned that my spouse's uncle, let's call him Jay, has spent the past decade talking, in disturbing detail, about how he used to torture and kill people. Many of the incidents he describes took place in California, but not exclusively there, and not even just within the US. Jay is elderly now and has Parkinson's, which seems to have loosened his filter. His daughter has endured years of abuse from him, and on top of that, she's been trying to get authorities to take his confession seriously. For over a decade, she's kept records of what he said, specifics about victims, locations, and methods. She's compiled files, folders, and his old notebooks, all full of chilling information. She's even documented the existence of what can only be called a murder cabin, complete with rusted chains still attached to the metal bed frame. And yes, Jay used to work as a prison psychologist until he lost his license for raping a patient. That patient later became his accomplice. He bears an unsettling resemblance to a figure from a well-known police sketch. Just one more serious criminal in that side of the family. A call with Apple support turned into a nightmare. My heart hasn't stopped racing since this happened yesterday. I have to move to a different city now, and I'm devastated. I was getting ready for dinner at my partner's parents' house when I decided to call Apple support about some unfamiliar charges on my account. I assumed it was just a subscription I'd forgotten to cancel. I'd noticed odd charges for a few months, but they were small, so I ignored them. Then three $50 charges hit back to back, and I decided to look into it. Apple support was incredibly helpful. They were even able to remotely access my partner's phone, someone I've been with for 4 years. That's when they showed me he had entered my payment info into his device and had been making repeated purchases. Most of it, TikTok coins for random women. He saw what was happening and grabbed the phone, turning away from me. The Apple rep quietly told me, I'm still in his phone. I can see he's now trying to unsave things in TikTok. I was stunned and humiliated. I asked if his phone could have been hacked. She said no. His account was secure, and the only way my payment info could be on his phone was if he put it there himself. Then she asked if I wanted to know the total. $700 just from the most recent billing cycle, with more from previous ones. It's possible I once entered my payment info into his phone for something, and he didn't realize he was using my card. His family is wealthy, and maybe he thought he was charging his mom's account. But either way, our relationship is over. I even called his mom to tell her. Apple is refunding the recent charges, but the emotional damage is done. The scariest part is thinking you truly know someone, only to find out you didn't. Please always check your statements. If something looks off, don't wait. Sometimes it's not pretend. I grew up in the backwoods of Washington State. My family lived on a 5-acre plot, more than half of it dense forest that stretched well beyond our property line. My twin brother and I spent nearly every day out there, climbing trees, catching frogs, and running wild. It was the kind of childhood most kids dream about. One late summer night when we were about 8, I heard screaming from deep in the woods. I was the only one who noticed it at first, because I had my window open. I'd heard coyotes before. This wasn't that. This was human. Raw and terrified. I went to my brother's room, opened his window, and asked if he could hear it too. He could. We decided not to wake our parents. For a week, the screaming continued. We finally told our parents. They dismissed it as coyotes and told us not to worry. But the screams got louder, closer. Then toys started going missing. My skateboard vanished after I left it outside. My brother's bike disappeared. Pool inflatables? Gone. Again, we told our parents. Again, they brushed it off, said we were careless and lost our stuff. I stopped sleeping with the window open, but one night, I still heard it, closer than ever. I looked out and froze. At the edge of the woods, just past our backyard fence, stood a man. Tall, gaunt, motionless. Even from the second floor, I could see the moonlight reflecting off the whites of his eyes. They were wide, bulging, unblinking, fixed on the house. Then he turned his gaze toward my window. He moved slowly, with long, uneven steps, heading for the backyard gate. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. He was close enough now that I could see his face. His mouth hung open in a silent scream, and his eyes looked like they might pop out of his skull. Patches of hair stuck out from a mostly bald scalp, like it had been ripped out. His clothes were shredded, filthy. He was barefoot. He stood directly under my window, staring. And then, without his expression changing, an ear-piercing scream came out of his mouth. His face didn't move. His body didn't twitch. But the scream shook me loose. I bolted to my brother's room. He'd heard it too. Together we ran to our parents' room, crying and begging them to believe us. They didn't. Just a bad dream, they said. I'd scared my brother with my imagination. That last week of summer was the worst. The man kept showing up, standing at the tree line, watching. Sometimes during the day, too, but whenever I called someone to come see, he vanished. When school started, I felt relief. I wasn't home as much, and gradually the sightings stopped. I told myself maybe it really had been my imagination. Then came a Tuesday night. There was a knock at the front door. My mind went straight to him. My dad answered. It was a police officer. A neighbor had called 911 after catching someone breaking into their pool house. The officer explained that the man had been living in the woods nearby for months, and if anything had gone missing over the summer, we might find it at his camp. I slipped out the back door, trying to get a glimpse. Pressing my face to the window of the police car, I looked inside, and then a face appeared from the shadows. Bulging white eyes, mouth ajar, tufts of hair. It was him, the screaming man. So if a kid tells you there's a monster, maybe don't be so quick to say it's just pretend, because I wasn't pretending. The strange guy at my work. I want to start by saying, yes, I still work at this hotel, and yes, we still get the occasional weird guest. But this one sticks with me. It was my second or third month working night audit. I had just finished running the financial reports when I heard the front doors open. Our desk is pretty tall, and I was sitting down, so I couldn't see who came in. I stood up, expecting a late check-in or walk-in, but it wasn't either. Standing in the lobby was this homeless-looking guy. Long, greasy gray hair, worn-out flannel, just standing there near the door, silently watching me. After a few seconds, I asked if he was a guest or if he needed help. He didn't say a word, just kept staring. I started to feel uncomfortable, so I called our security guy. Let's call him James. I asked him to come to the front desk. He radioed back that he was on his way from the fourth floor maintenance closet. As soon as I heard the elevator start coming down, the guy turned and walked out. No words, no reaction, just gone. A moment later, James showed up. I told him what happened, and he offered to check around the property. We have a strict no trespassing policy, so we wanted to make sure the guy was actually gone. About 20 minutes later, James came back. He hadn't seen anyone. He suggested we check the security footage to get a better look at the guy in case he came back. This is where it gets weird. We went into the back office and rewound the cameras. We got to the moment the front doors opened. The doors opened. I stood up. I looked directly at the guy. But there was no one on the screen. The doors opened. I reacted. But he wasn't there. And keep in mind, our lobby is brightly lit all night. There are no dark corners, no shadows to hide in. I was shook. I'd heard stories about people dying around here, homeless folks found in the area, even a few tales about deaths in the hotel. I never knew if any of it was true. Still don't. James stayed in the lobby the rest of the night. I didn't sleep when I got home. And while I haven't seen that guy again, I have seen other creepy things, especially in the back office, but those are stories for another time. To this day, I still wonder if it was just my imagination or if I really saw something that night. Stranger knocking. A couple years ago, I was watching a movie with a friend when there was a knock 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 at the front door. Not gentle, but not aggressive either, just firm. I had just come out of the bathroom and was already on my way back to the living room, only a few steps from the door. I opened it. Nothing. It was a quiet, pleasant evening, about an hour before sunset. I looked around, saw no one, and figured maybe it was a kid messing around. I shrugged and went back inside. 15 minutes later, knock, knock, knock. Same sound, same rhythm. I was now sitting just a few feet from the door. This time, I was irritated. I jumped up, swung the door open immediately. Still nothing. I live on a corner lot. I stepped outside and walked the perimeter. Not a soul. And it was dead silent. I started to feel a little off, like something didn't add up. Whoever knocked would have had to move fast and silent, and I would have heard something. At this point, I was more annoyed than anything. I grabbed a dining chair and put myself by the front door, hand on the knob, ready. If someone was screwing with me, they weren't getting away a third time. Another 15 minutes passed. Then, bam, bam, bam. Not knocking this time, pounding. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I yanked the door open instantly. Nobody. No footsteps, no rustling, no voice, not even a breeze. The street was still. The air was heavy. No marks on the door. No sign anyone had been there. I don't pretend to know what it was. I'm not someone who jumps to ghosts or the supernatural, but I know what I heard. I know how fast I reacted. And I know no person could have vanished that cleanly 3 times in a row. We lived in that house until just 2 months ago. Nothing else ever happened. Still, sometimes I think about that third knock and how it didn't feel like someone just playing games. The man who watched us sleep. I'm from Sri Lanka. I'm 26 now, Buddhist, and this is my first time sharing anything like this online. It's the creepiest thing that's ever happened to me. Something I've tried to write down many times but never could. Every time I sat down to do it, something would stop me. Maybe fear, maybe something else. This happened when I was in grade 10 or 11. My younger brother, he was in grade 6 or 7, shared a bed with me at the time. Let me give you a picture of our room first. Our bedroom faced the main Colombo Candy Road. The bed was shoved into a corner with the headboard against the wall. At the foot of the bed, there was maybe 2 feet of space between us and a tall wardrobe. On the other side was the door. Next to the door was an old iron table with a short leg. If you even bumped it lightly, it would make this loud, uneven dadas sound as it wobbled. That night, my brother and I went to bed around 9:30 or 10. It was hot, sticky, and miserable. He fell asleep fast, but I couldn't. Through the curtain hanging over our door, I could still see the glow of the living room lights. About 30 minutes later, I heard them click off. My mom, dad, and sisters had gone to bed. I lay there, eyes shut, trying to drift off, but the heat was unbearable. I tossed and turned. 2, maybe 3 hours passed. It was dead silent outside. No cars, no movement. And then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, steady, deliberate. Not rushing, not hesitant, just approaching. I froze. It sounded like someone walking on the tiled floor, coming from the living room, heading straight to our room. The steps stopped right at the door. I kept my eyes shut and yanked the sheet over my head, as if it could protect me. For a few seconds, silence. Then dadas. That sound of the table wobbling. Something had bumped it. My heart nearly exploded. Someone was in the room. Forget the heat. I was soaked in cold sweat, trembling under the covers. I wanted to look. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't move. Finally, I cracked my eyes open just a bit, pretending I was still asleep. And that's when I saw him. A man. He was sitting on the iron table, one leg up on a chair, the other on the ground. He looked like he was dressed for a job interview. Dark pants, a tucked-in long-sleeve shirt. His hair was shoulder length, messy. I couldn't see his face clearly, but he sat there, hand on his hip, staring directly at our bed. At me. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. I tried to nudge my brother. My arms wouldn't move. I was frozen. I shut my eyes tight and pulled the sheet over my head again. My whole body shook. Minutes passed. No sound. I peeked again. The table was empty. Relief. But then I looked at the wardrobe, and my blood ran cold. He was standing at the foot of the bed now. Just standing there, staring down at us. Tall, about 6 feet, the same height as the wardrobe. Still dressed sharp, still motionless. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. My brother shifted in his sleep, but I couldn't even reach him. I shut my eyes again, prayed, waited. Eventually, I forced myself to peek once more. The man was gone. Table, empty. Wardrobe, clear. My chest loosened a bit. I adjusted my pillow, looked up, and that's when I saw him again. He was perched on the headboard, right above me, leaning over. His face no more than a foot away from mine, right where there shouldn't have been space for anyone to sit. He was there. I don't remember what happened after that. I think I blacked out. Next thing I knew, it was morning. My brother wasn't in the bed. I felt feverish and dizzy, like I hadn't slept at all. Still groggy, I stumbled into the kitchen, where my mom and brother were talking. I was about to tell her what happened, part of me trying to convince myself it was just a nightmare, when I heard him say, "Amma, last night some man came into our room. He was by the table first. Then he went to Aya's side and leaned over his face." I shut my eyes. I was scared. Then he was by the wardrobe. I looked again, and he was on the bed, leaning right over Aya, staring at him. I tried to scream but couldn't. After that, I passed out. I couldn't speak. For a whole month after that, we played Pirate Chance non-stop in our room. Nothing strange happened again. But now, I think back to something my older sister told us before all this. She'd said that one afternoon, while napping in that same room, she felt someone grab her hair and pull her off the bed, whispering, "Get down." We laughed at her back then, said she was dreaming. After that night, we weren't so sure. You can believe it or not, but even today, I still have questions that won't leave me. How did he balance on the headboard without falling? How did he fit behind a bed that barely had an inch of space from the wall? Who or what was that? Even now, years later, every time I lie down at night, I still feel that fear. That maybe I'll open my eyes and he'll be there. Divine intervention saved us. This happened a couple of months ago. At the time, my wife and I were barely holding our marriage together. We'd been teetering on divorce for a while, only staying under the same roof for the sake of our 2 babies. A few days before this, we had a fight we couldn't resolve. She asked me to leave the house for a few days to give her space. My relationship with my family was strained, so I didn't have anywhere to go. I packed some clothes into plastic storage bins, tossed them in the back of my truck, and started living out of it. Since I work about 45 minutes away, I just stayed near my job, bouncing between a few quiet spots at night. Eventually, we talked things through and I came back home. We were still on thin ice, so I slept on the couch and left all my stuff in the truck. In the mornings, I'd go out, grab my clothes from the bins, start the truck to get the heater going, then come back in to get ready for work. I start work at 5 o'clock a.m., so I usually wake up at 3:45, get dressed, and leave by 4 o'clock. I have alarms set every 15 minutes, starting at 3 o'clock, but the 3:45 one is different. It's a loud five-finger death punch song that jolts me awake. That morning, though, the song didn't start until 3:47. Just 2 minutes late, but enough to stand out. It didn't fade in like an alarm I'd been sleeping through. It started at 3:47. Still half asleep, I walked outside to start my truck. I noticed right away that the dome and cargo lights were on. The driver's door was slightly open, maybe a quarter inch from latching. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe I hadn't shut it all the way the night before. Or maybe my wife had gone out to grab something. I started the truck, grabbed my clothes, went back inside to get ready, then left for work like usual. About 10 minutes into the drive, it hit me. My gun wasn't in the glove box. Normally I keep it there while I'm in this temporary setup because my holster had broken, and I have to drive through some sketchy areas during peak crime hours. I know it wasn't the safest decision, but it was part of my routine. That's when it all started to click. The lights on my truck stay on for about 5 to 10 minutes after a door opens, which meant someone had opened that door not long before I walked outside. And if my alarm had gone off at its usual time, I might have walked right into that scene while the guy was still there, with my loaded gun in his hands. But it doesn't stop there. One of my neighbors is always outside having a smoke when I leave for work. That morning, he overslept. Another neighbor, catty corner from us, has a surveillance system with cameras all around his property and a live feed running on a TV in his living room. He's a night owl and usually stays up late. That night, he had just gone to bed less than 5 minutes before the break-in. All three of us are the type to confront someone in a situation like that, and any one of us could have walked into something dangerous. Too many pieces fell into place. A delayed alarm, overslept neighbors, a quiet retreat instead of a confrontation. I don't believe this was just luck. Call it coincidence if you want, but to me, it felt like divine intervention.